Hello and welcome to the Car Care channel. This is a 2025 Toyota Camry XSE. This Toyota Camry XSE cost $45,000. That's the price of an Avalon, and that is like a very small amount away from an ES350. So in today's video, we will explore this and see why is this $45,000? What's going on with the world? Does it really come up this close to the ES350 or not? Right after this. Let's talk about this Camry. It's $45,000. Let's pop the hood. Let's take a look what we got underneath the hood there. So, let's see what we got here. So, from the previous generation, you lost the V6, you lost the gas-only model, it's only a hybrid, which, honestly, I'm completely fine with that, because their hybrid system here is the next level, let's put it this way. Although, this is a fifth-generation hybrid system, it is not a radical departure like when we went from third generation to fourth generation. It is a little bit softer. I feel like we are peaking with hybrid technology. I'm just going to say it. Every generation that comes up, they improve it so much that it's like, how can they improve more on this? So this improvement, while it's really good, it's not as over the top. Something they did with the fifth gen, they got rid of the pre-charge resistor and that whole mess, which used to be a problem with the third gen with cracks and whatnot. Now they moved it, integrated it into the DC-DC converter. They kind of refined the system. They're able to utilize more of the battery power. So here's what that translates for you, the driver. You own one of these, for example, or you're looking to buy one. You're going to notice there's a much smoother system. That's the first thing. The second thing is your EV range is going to be a lot longer. You're going to immediately notice that this stays in EV mode a lot more than the fourth gen. The other thing is gas mileage is a little bit better. It's not a lot better, but it is a little bit better. But I feel like the biggest thing is the fifth generation hybrid system with this particular car feels more powerful. It feels more peppy. It just picks up. Hybrids in the past used to be like slow on pickup. Yeah, when you have an electric motor, it kind of have instant torque and whatnot, but they were never peppy. That's the word. I've owned a 2022 Toyota Camry hybrid, so I have a personal experience with it. This just feels more responsive. Now it still has the drone with the CVT and all that. It's not really a CVT transmission, just to make sure. This is an eCVT, possibly one of the most reliable transmissions you'll ever see, even compared to a manual transmission. But here's what I like here. There's some things I like, some things I like. I feel like this generation, because it is not a radical departure from what we known before, they were able to use the same engine, for example. This is a A25A non-turbo. Engine has been proven it's been around since 2018. This engine is, at the time when it came out, was mega complicated when you look at it in 2018. But today, this is actually one of the simpler ones. Let's talk about a few highlights of this engine. This is a time and chain engine. It does have two-piece cylinder head. It does have hydraulic lifters, roller rocker, dual VVTi. The intake one is electronic. The exhaust one is hydraulically controlled or oil controlled. This does have D4S, so it has direct and port injection at the same time. This does have an electronic water pump and a coolant distribution valve. Now, in the early days of this engine, they did have an issue with one of the valves either leaking or not working properly and causing a message on the dash. This is a much later iteration, so things have changed a lot. But what I like about this is, hybrids have been around for a long time, and inverters and the hybrid components, the inverter is kind of the main brain of the operation, this guy right here. They've gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, but here's the interesting thing about the fifth generation, and I'm looking at it here. Short of us getting a fourth gen and measuring, I feel like this has gotten a little bigger. That's the only thing. And I understand why, because they moved some stuff that were in the battery all the way here. So I get it. But as a mechanic, let's talk about it this way. This doesn't look foreign. It's exactly the same thing as any other hybrid. You have an inverter here, batteries in the back, Things are exactly the same. That's the good thing, folks. Some folks will take that as a bad thing. That's a good thing. You get a non-turbo engine, an engine that's been around for a bit, and it's got a decent track record so far. Yes, it's a new generation hybrid system, but it's actually not entirely new because they came out with the Prius, with the latest generation Prius. And now they're rolling it into here, and now the 2026 RAV4 will also have a 5th gen. So things are looking up in this department. Now, do I miss the V6? Do I miss non-hybrid model, the gasoline model only? I actually don't, because the 8-speed transmission that is ongoing has not been, how should I say it? It's not been aging well. There's been some problems. So ECBT, I think for reliability, that's a better transmission. And I know some folks will be concerned with the complication of the hybrid system and all. It's actually not a complication, folks, because they've been at this for a long time. And I really like how this car, it drives much better than any previous hybrid. And I really like that part. Let's take a look underneath the $45,000 25 Camry. Here's the reality of this. When you buy a fully loaded, decked out Camry like this one, underneath is going to be exactly the same as your base model. That's the interesting part. Now, we've reviewed the 25 Camry before, and the covers were a little bit on the cheaper side. This one feels much better. I feel like maybe that was an early production. This is a later production. And they do leave you a very clear opening for the subframe. So this is actually a lift point. This cover is exactly the same as the previous generation. Something we talked about. This is not entirely a new generation, which is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. This cover basically, oil filters right here, drain plug, super simple for service. If you want to do coolant, whatnot, you have to remove everything, or transmission, you got to remove this cover. Let's take a look at the front suspension here. This is what I love about this. Steel lower control arm with a separate ball joint. Iconic design from Toyota. I've been using this for a very long time. Very good design. What I love about this is it has a steel knuckle. We don't have some strange aluminum knuckle that's going to seize, because this is a bolt-on bearing. This is not a press-on bearing anymore. You do have a single piston caliper in the front, which is perfectly sufficient, especially for a hybrid. Being a hybrid, brakes will last a very long time with normal use. Now, the 19-inch wheel, got to talk about that. This is part of the $45,000 part. Looking at the previous generations, and every single Camry have had a 19-inch wheel, it's just too big, and the tire is just too small. Be careful. Put these through potholes, they're going to bend, they're going to cause all kinds of issues, or they're going to pop tires. This is something you want to be aware of. Now, here is something that I don't know why they do this. Back in, all the way in 2012, when that generation Camry came out, they experimented with aluminum front sway bars, links. That didn't work very well. They actually superseded that into a steel one because they were failing left and right. Ah, look what I have here. It was that aluminum sway bar link. I don't get it, folks. We don't have sway bar link problems with Toyota early, only with the aluminum ones. Good thing it's not plastic, but still. I wish they would have put the steel one. I mean, asking for prices like that would be nice. Little stuff. Moving on from that, the exhaust. The quality is decent. It's not the highest I've seen from Toyota, like some of the stuff that are made in Japan, but it's not bad. This is actually very nice. The flanges, on the other hand, on this one, they're actually the right thickness. I like that. You know, we're starting to see Toyotas, these flanges get smaller and smaller and smaller. These are actually the correct size. They're not as big as some of the older ones, but because 10 years down the road, rusty area like ours, Chicagoland here, this is going to be a problem. But at least they are a little bit thicker. They have more material to wear down. Everything is covered, very similar covering to the previous generation. I really like that. But again, if you get a base model, it'll have the same thing. Just heads up. Going back here, this is where they put the fuel tank. Something very important about the fuel tank here. This is something also they started doing in the previous generation. These are stainless steel, the straps that hold the tank. And the tank is actually, you see how this bolt goes through the ear of the tank and it bolts it to the body? So something common with all the Toyotas, these would rust out and then potentially the fuel tank would fall. We don't have this issue anymore. Ever since they switched certain models to this style, these don't rust. That's a pretty cool part. They put the fuel tank here because batteries inside. And as we move in the back here, this particular one is an all-wheel drive model. does have the rear unit over here. This has a motor inside and differential and whatnot. Pretty cool that they're able to integrate this without just a giant change to the car. And that's something that they do with this platform. I mean, it's a very small unit, but it makes the Camry all-wheel drive, and it's a proper all-wheel drive. It's pretty cool. You don't have drive shaft or transfer case and whatnot. Sway bar link in the rear, I really like this because this is steel. Look at that thing. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And again, in the back, everything is steel arms. Steel knuckles, steel arms. Some folks will say, no, but we want the aluminum fancy stuff. Actually, you don't. Because when this bearing fails and you have an aluminum one, yeah, that's not going to happen. You may end up having to replace the knuckle. Here's something that just is beyond me why it is not changed. And this is not just Toyota, it's all other manufacturers. Why do we have bushings on the knuckle? And if these bushings ever fail in the future, now you're looking at a knuckle replacement. I mean, why don't we just flip this where it's like this style, where the bushing's on the arm? Because I'll tell you one thing, that arm costs a lot less than the knuckle. That's what I don't understand why. Maybe for assembly, but I really don't even see it. I mean, it's the same thing. That's moving around here. You do have a single piston caliper with integrated park and brake actuator, which we really like this style. However, this is one of the nice ones with the parking brake. So if you're doing brakes on this car, all you got to do is take these two bolts, pull it out, do your brakes, attach it back, and we're done. That's something they started with the 22 Tundra and moving up. Love this, because now you don't have to reset it and use a scan tool, all this mess. Actually thought about that, and that's really nice. Moving away from that, they do have a cover here, very similar to previous generation. This one does have a single exhaust, not like the previous generation, which had dual. However, these are the things that just make me wonder, what was the plan? You have a single tip. Then you have the second tip welded to it, but it's closed here. If you look inside here, it's closed. So this tip does nothing. It's just decoration. Why? I mean, just to make it functional. It would be nice. I mean, why do we have to put a fake tip? And then why do we have to design a bumper of a new model that we just designed that is all hybrid? They all come with a single one, and then make an indent in the bumper for a second one, and then just cover it up. I don't get this stuff. I mean, you paid $45,000 for this car. It's a nice car, don't get me wrong, but yeah, can we just maybe make this bumper straight? I know you're trying to make it symmetrical, or maybe put the second muffler on the expensive one. Just tee this off here, put another muffler. So just little nitpicks. Not a big deal. However, this part is completely covered. I love it because you don't have anything here. This one, on the other hand, yeah, it's wide open. Again, don't know why they do that, but they do. That's okay. Now that we talked about everything here, let's go talk about the hybrid battery, because that's a very important part. And I feel like they've been making really good progress on this part. So, 2 generations ago, the hybrid battery used to be behind the seat. It took up a lot of your trunk space. It just was not a great place for it, honestly. It felt like a total afterthought. Starting the generation before this one, they started putting the batteries underneath the back seat. Now, some folks will have concerns. Well, this is a battery, it's a high voltage battery. I have my kids here. Folks, that is not a concern. I'm just going to flat out say it. I would put my kids here, not have a worry at all. But this battery is air-cooled, and this is something you need to know about hybrids. This battery is air-cooled. It has a fan and a filter on the other side. You can see that vent. That vent has a filter behind it. That's where the intake is. So it's important you don't block that. You keep that filter clean. It's very simple, very DIY to do it. But this is where the battery is. And because the battery is moved here, the trunk is now unobstructed, unlike 2 generations ago. I mean, when they used to put the battery, they would put it right here. This is where the trunk ended, because you had to make space for the battery. But they started designing these cars with the hybrid battery in mind. That's the cool thing. And the 12-volt battery now lives, because the space of it is taken by the inverter. Battery lives right here. Something you need to know about this battery, because I see this all the time, folks. This is not a special battery, but it is a sealed battery with a side vent. If you look right here, do you see this? This is actually a vent for this battery that vents outside. Batteries will normally, throughout their normal operation, they will, release a little bit of gas. That is pretty normal. But you don't want that here and eventually ending in the cabin. That's important. So if you go to replace one of these batteries, make sure you get the correct one, because I see this mistake all the time. That's actually a health hazard, and you want to be aware of that. Now we've talked about the powertrain and everything, I want to start exploring the car. Since we're here, let's talk about it. Because this car cost $45,000. And it is, there's no other way to say it, it's a stretch. It's a big stretch. Because you are now very close to an ES350. I mean, you're deep into Avalon territory. Well, we don't have an Avalon, but that's what I mean. Avalon's a bigger car. And here's my concern. I like this. A lot of cars are losing their trunk cover. I like that they use proper clips and it looks really nice. But then we have this. I mean, we're charging this much. This is what people want to see. I mean, a little cover here would be nice. Same thing here. We're going to charge these prices. That would be nice. Now, the trunk is not power. Honestly, I can live with that. But this is something they did in the previous generation. That's why it's my opinion that this generation is not really a full-on new generation. They the previous generation was so good, they just updated on it and kept going. But if you look down, they don't have the olden days of like a giant beam that goes across here and torsion bars and whatnot. They have shocks. They're just little shocks. They wear out. You just replace them. Super simple, super DIY, and we move on with life. This is a great design, folks, because it puts less load on the hinges. It is very simple in serviceability wise. It's very simple. Love that. That's a nice thing. But then we get to the other part. Look at this trunk. Like I get it. Look, it's not a complaint, but if we're going to charge that kind of prices, I mean, everything's exposed and wide open. And then this is, I call it the special. This is the stuff I feel like they don't think about. This speaker is right here, JBL speaker. Great. Well, here's the problem that I see. If you look here, look at this giant grill. Okay? I mean, you look at that, you just paid this much for this car. I love it. Look at that massive speaker. Is it though? Because it is not. It's just a tiny little subwoofer. That's the first thing. Second thing, having the speaker here, you could easily damage it if you put something big here. I mean, we want to use this trunk to its full extent. You put something tall and you push it, you just pushed on this speaker and could potentially damage it. These are the things, I mean, if we were to cover this, folks will know that this is not a no access area, but this is just wide open. That's the little stuff. Now, everything else, the sheet metal, Toyota's always done really good with sheet metal stuff. This looks very nice. I mean, the finishing on the sheet metal, everything looks really nice. Having said that, let's take a look at the outside for a little bit. So this is something they're changing. Now they write HEV and PHEV, basically hybrid electric vehicle and plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Do like the way this car looks, but it's basically the same generation as the previous, just with a few tweaks on the outside. That's something you need to be aware of. I do like that they wrote this down. The overall look of the XSE is really nice. I am not particularly keen on the just exhaust on one side. I mean, I feel like it's a downgrade with a higher price. That's how it feels like. But let's take a look at the inside before we go talk about the rest of it, because this is where this price is. Let's take a look at the inside. Unlike the XLE, which had a little cowl here. Basically, that's what I call it. This interior, I mean, I just gotta say it. This is properly nice. I mean, this part's really nice. Now, the materials, different conversation, but this leather feels very nice. The pattern, they did something to justify the price, because this price is pretty high. Infotainment screen is a big screen. It works, but looks like the RAV4 may, and the 2026 RAV4 may end up having a new generation of infotainment. But here's what I like about this versus the new RAV4, which has just announced it, but I'm going to say this. If you guys didn't notice, the new RAV4 lost the physical buttons of the HVAC. Now they have them inside on the screen. Don't like that. Honestly, no, that's not a very Toyota thing to do. But this one, I really like this. The center stack looks so nice, except this, because this makes the passenger compartment feel small. Like, I don't get why this is here. If this was open, it would be even nice. Gives you like that open feel. But everything else, I really like what they did here, because it's basically the exact same car as before. They revised the dash and revised everything. Now, this part, if you own a previous generation, this part is exactly the same. There's nothing different about this. This, however, I like that the wireless charger is in a much better place. And then you have this opening here. I just wish this was not here. That would even open it up even further. Steering wheel changed. And this is, I like this steering wheel. Actually, the previous one, I really liked it. This one is even nicer. It's giving me good vibes. Now, the gauge is all a giant screen that does absolutely nothing. That's where the price is. And then we have this ginormous panoramic sunroof. They did have some issues in 2018, but things have been okay. But here's another thing that just a little stuff. This is like a roll-up shade, and it's not very nice. Let's put it this way. Having said all that, I just have to say one thing. Look at the last generation Avalon that they no longer make. This now costs the same. I'm not getting the same vibes, and that's the problem. Cars are getting so expensive that folks will get into this and look at the base model. Yeah, this has more features, bigger screen, this cool red seats, but it basically has the same layout as a normal one. It doesn't go over the top. That's going to be a problem with the Camry, I think, with this trim at this high price. Because if we look at it on the outside, the XSE, I'm just going to, before we look at the outside, I'm just going to bring your attention to this. I don't know why that is. Like, this is where I don't understand these decisions. So 2018 Camry had hood shocks. Just it opens right up. Then I believe right around 21, something like that, they decided, that's too fancy. Let's just put a prop ride. But now in this generation, I mean, it costs a lot. Hood shocks would be nice. This is the stuff that folks will like. But it even goes beyond that. This is not painted. It's just a universal one size fits all. That's the other thing. And before we close the hood here, we'll look at the rest. 0W8. Yeah. Very expensive oil. Mobil 1 finally came out with 0W8. It's a little bit cheaper, but the Toyota one, very expensive. And the biggest problem with it is it's not even available everywhere. I understand they're going with that for emissions and whatnot, but yeah, 0W8 is a new problem. Let's take a look at the outside. And, you know, the XSE, it's a striking looking thing, especially in this color. I mean, the previous generation XSE, one thing about it was it looked distinct from the rest, but it was not over the top. This one, over the top. It even has this optional light here that costs a small fortune. I really like how this Camry looks. I can understand this is a fully decked out one that has every single bell and whistle. But 45,000? it's an interesting world, because I remember when I bought my 2022 Camry Hybrid, I believe it was 37. That's not what I paid for it, but MSRP was 37. I thought that was a lot. I mean, yeah, it was a nice car, but that was like, you with taxes and everything, you're into the 40s. It's like we're now into the Avalon territory, and I expect a longer wheelbase and a little bit more on the luxury side of things. This is now 45. It's honestly, I hope dealers are gonna do better this time around and not add markups and whatnot, especially on the high trims, because at this point, why don't we just go buy an ES350? Because we're right there. And I guarantee you one thing, ES350 is a lot nicer than this because it's a Lexus. That's the problem. That's I feel like is what's going to slowly end the sedans, because everyone wants to buy an SUV, and I get it. They're very functional. They're great for families and whatnot. But these prices are not helping, folks. I feel like I really like the XSE. I love how it looks. I love all the features that I have and everything. But the price is too much. There's no other way to say it. I want an Avalon for this kind of money, not a Camry. That's as sad as that is, because this thing looks awesome. I really like all the options and everything. It's just too much money. Flat out. I'm just going to leave it at that. Folks, I hope this video is helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.